The year was Nothing But a G Thing by Dr. Dre and Right Here by SWV. Bill Clinton was still in office, and audiences were lining up to watch Jurassic Park. There's a Nintendo at home, but the $2.50 in quarters and the arcade down the block is too enticing to pass up. Walking through the doors of the arcade, there are people flocking around Street Fighter, as usual. But there's some new machines there as well. One has just as many people around it. Peeking through the people standing on the side, you see that there's a man in a straw hat reaching for the sky and summoning lightning. It's Raiden on the side cabinet of the arcade, and it looks like he's there for business. On screen, Shang Tsung is bowing to someone. Why would he be bowing? He was the main guy in the last game. He even bossed around Gore. And who is this Conan the Barbarian looking guy that he's actually bowing to? All of these questions and more get set aside when the attract mode for the demo starts, because it is just too dope. Yo, there's a black guy this time? Is that Reptile? Does he have his own moves now? Who's the girl with the fans? This game looks insane. There are tons of people playing Mortal Kombat 2, but there's another machine that's not as crowded. One that looks pretty cool but seems to be more accessible, and that game is called Time Killers.
I rule this world.
For those people who grew up Mortal Kombat adjacent, and what I mean by that is they're aware of the franchise, maybe they played a game here or there once or twice, but they never really dived deep into the franchise. Some of those people tend to have a similar talking point when it comes to the success of Mortal Kombat. That it was all due to the blood and gore of the franchise. No one can deny that the blood did get a lot of attention towards the product, but I would say that the reason the game is on its 12th mainline title is not because of the game's brutality and blood, but actually in spite of it. Like Street Fighter and Smash Bros., Mortal Kombat is in a select group of fighting games that pioneered the industry so much so that companies created knockoffs to try to muscle in on the popularity that the series garnered. Where some of the aforementioned knockoffs gained some success, there aren't many Mortal Kombat clones that can say the same. Some with just as much, if not more, blood and guts completely fell to the wayside. Remember that game, Time Killers? If not, it's a Mortal Kombat clone that came out the same year that Mortal Kombat 2 was released. It's a weapon-based fighting game where players could cut off the limbs of the opponent mid-match. You could even get an instant win if you were able to land the right hit and get the head. There were also fatality-like finishing moves where you could rip the opponent, literally, limb from limb if you weren't able to do so during the match. Despite being more gruesome than both Mortal Kombat 1 and 2, Time Killers didn't get much fanfare, and there were no sequels. How could this be the case if all players wanted was gore? If this were true, why weren't games like Time Killers, games like Eternal Champions, games like War Gods, why weren't these games the powerhouse like Mortal Kombat was in the market? The gore may have brought players to the game, but I believe they kept feeding the machine quarters because of the character design, the gameplay, the secrets, and the story. To say otherwise would be to discount those elements, all of which, including the gore, seems to be the package that players kept coming back for. There are actually a group of players that want to tone down the violence in Mortal Kombat. Streaming Mortal Kombat has gotten more and more difficult as the realism of the game has gotten better. Many sponsors don't want to associate with a title with as much violence as Mortal Kombat, preventing the game from having more money in the scene or from having really cool events like Red Bull Kumite. Many players seem to want to have a toggle similar to Mortal Kombat Armageddon, where they can either tone down or completely turn off the gore. Between that and players opting not to do fatalities a lot of the time, I don't see why anyone would make the argument that gore is what keeps this franchise popular. At the time of this video, Mortal Kombat 1 is in a rough patch, and it still feels very unfinished. However, I'd say that there's more than just gore that keeps people playing the game. How do you feel about this argument? Am I making sense, or is it indeed only the gore that players love? Leave a comment and let me know. I'm genuinely curious on what you think. If you made it this far, you can
Acknowledge me
by hitting the like button. You can hit confirm into the subscribe button to join
millions
of ShinFit subscribers. If you like fighting game content, there's a video on screen now that I'm sure that you'll enjoy. But more importantly than everything else, don't get beat up out there.